Hey up everybody and welcome back. Well, we've got about 4 or 5 inches of snow outside. It's been below freezing the last couple of days, so I guess winter's here. Right, no point in dwelling on that. What we're going to do today is we're going to do the drive side. Put the chain case on, put the clutch on, the gearbox sprocket, all that sort of thing. Probably the electronic ignition. I don't think it'll take too long to put all that together. And I think that spanner's a bit big for you. You should start with something smaller. Start with a 7/16 or something like that. Look, you're going to end up with a hernia. Stop. Alright? Okay, before we get going though, I've had another Hitchcock's delivery. And it's got the, it's got the stuff for putting the little tappet cover on, because I found I didn't have them. Didn't have the nice little fasteners that go on, and I didn't have the actual mounting pillars. I got 2 of them and 2 of those because they're missing on the other engine as well. I also got a couple of new banjo bolts for the rockers, the rocker feed. Oil filter I'd forgotten, and very importantly the rocker blocks came. Now, I had one comment about these, and it was something that I was thinking about. They're actually alloy ones. They're quite nicely made. But it says there's an O-ring at each end, and I thought to myself, well, we know the oil's going up through the bottom. So if there's an O-ring at each end, how's it going to get out to go back down? So you'll notice there's a little slot milled in each of the side. So that's to let the oil out, I guess. So they're quite nice. I mean, all that, 2 of them, 35 quid. Can't complain at that. And what else was it? There was something else. Something else. Oh yeah. Lever for the decompressor. And I got the slightly more expensive one as well. Little rush of blood there. So okay, I'll put those to one side. And we'll go and get stuck in with the drive side. Right, rear sprockets. Okay, now you may remember that when I did this, I lined it up with the rear of the sprocket. Now the reason I did that was because this sprocket is a 530. And that is a bit heavy, but I can only get 530 from Hitchcock's. I maybe could have chased around. I don't know if Talon make one specially, but anyway, I'm going to use a 520 chain because it's the same pitch but it's thinner, so we're going to lose a little bit of weight, and also it's going to make it easier to get a rear sprocket, because you may remember there wasn't a lot of space between the sprocket and the brake plate. We certainly don't have another 1/8 of an inch, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn an 1/8 of an inch off this. Now I would have taken a 1/16 off each side, but as you can see, this actually isn't a full thickness. So we're going to take an 1/8 of an inch, because this is 3/8 and a 520 chain is 1/4. So let me just go and I'll set it up in the lathe and I'll show you it. Nothing much exactly to see, but mounted this in here. I put before I moved this up, I mounted a dial gauge on and checked that the face was true. This is hardened, so we're using a carbide insert in the cutter. So I've got this touched off against the face, not against the edge of the teeth because they slope, but against the very flat face here. And as you can see down there, I've set up a magnetic dial indicator, zeroed that so I can go this way 1/8 of an inch, 125 thou as I'm working my way. Now one thing you will find when you're doing something as hard as this is you've got to lock the carriage down each time, because if you don't, it'll get pushed this way. Alright, so let me do this. Right then, we've got our gearbox sprocket done now, so we can put it on. So there you can see I've turned it down to get it to be the right size. I put a little chamfer on. Actually, this proved to be so hard I couldn't even really do it very easily with a carbide tool. So what I did was, you saw how it was set up. I set it going at about 300 RPM and I used my angle grinder to take it pretty close and then finally faced it off a few thou at a time just to get a nice finish. So okay, I've put in the 2 oil seals. Now we have a nice proper oil seal in that side and the 2 centre spacing pieces. So the next thing to do is to put this on. Now you'll notice it's got a hole there. It's got another one round the other side and they're tapped. They're to lock the nut on. You'll see when we go on. You can also get, I noticed in the parts book, a locking washer. But one thing I have noticed, this one is by the tooth, this one is by the valley, and the one by the tooth is clear of the chain when it's on, but the chain will actually touch this, so we will see what we will see. Right now, of course, I'd forgotten to order them. I'd ordered a new nut and it has a little felt seal inside there. I ordered that, but I forgot to order those. So I made one out of some 1/4 inch stainless rod. It's a 1/4 inch BSW thread and then just a screwdriver slot in the top. So we'll put this on. Now I'm actually putting a, oh, what have I dropped? Hang on. I'm actually putting a little spacing piece in. This shouldn't go there, but mea culpa, when I did the chain line, I forgot to have the spacing piece in. So it was out a bit and I had to take a little off, also off the back side of the sprocket, which wasn't easy, but we got that off. So now the chain line, oops, is spot on, but of course the nut won't go on far enough because that's how much I took off. So there you are, Steam Shop. You see, I'm always honest. So that goes on. I wonder if I should just oil that a little first. Because the oil seals were oiled on the lips before the centres were put in and everything, so I didn't forget that, people. It's just everything else I forget. Oh, I can't find these 2 nuts, and they are 5/8 British Standard Cycle. Now, as you know, British Standard Cycle is basically 26 threads per inch for virtually right through from 1/4 to whatever. But there are a couple of them that are different, and the 5/8 are 20. Now fortunately, I've mentioned it before, I have a place up here called British Tools and Fasteners. It's also the people that do the nickel plating baths. And I just checked their catalogue and they have some 5/8 20. So I'll have to put another order in with Hitchcock's. I'll order some because I'll need them for the other engine. But if the nuts that come will work, that'll bring us a few days forward. Okay, this is a 1.5 inch nut, which actually is the same as BSA ones. So we need to lock this. Now normally you would have the chain on and stuff, but if you don't do that, you need to make yourself one of these. And no, it's not for flagellation. I always remember which way they go on. Let's think. This is going to turn that way, so it wants to go on like that. So what you do is you put that on there and you turn it round. And there you go. On. Now also with these grub screws, they only go on right in the centre of the flat, because of course as you begin to move off the centre of the flat you're going away, so you don't have the space to get it in. So I'm actually hoping I can get it onto this top one, because this is the one that doesn't touch the chain. That I think will just, come on anyway, get you a fraction more. Let's see if that will go on. Oh, I'll see if it'll go in, and then I'm actually going to put a drop of blue Loctite on it. Boing! Now see, I'm trying to do this left-handed because you're over there on my left-hand side, so will it go in? Yes. Okay, take that off. Might actually have made this a little bit long. I have actually, I made it a little too long because this is going to go up against the chain case. Let me go and just file, oh I don't know, 1/16 of an inch off the top of that and put a new slot in it. And then we'll put that in, as I say, with a blob of blue Loctite on. And there we go, it's in with some blue Loctite on. I should have mentioned, I suppose, that the unlike an ordinary grub screw that's threaded all the way, this is only threaded so far so that you can actually turn it and lock it in. You don't want it to just screw right through. So that's in nice and tight there. So what's the next thing? Alright, the next thing is to put the chain case on. I've put these 3 studs in. This stud also goes through. That's for mounting the slipper chain tensioner on. And be careful with these. This one is slightly longer. They're all 5/16. But these 3 are BSC. This is BSF. Why? I don't know. So I put a new oil seal in the back of here. So we need to put some oil on the lip of that. Now there isn't a gasket that comes in the gasket set with this. And I don't think we need anything, but just to be on the safe side, I'm going to put a little bit of gasket cement round the back. As you can see, it's only very thin, it's only round the edge. So we'll do that. There we go. Spread that. As always, don't put too much on. I mean, places like this it doesn't matter so much, but you know, on the cases and so on, where it could come off and end up inside the engine. Oh, now my finger's dirty. Right. Oil on the seal. Put a bit of oil on the shaft as well, so it all slides on a little easier. Right, now I've got everything. Everything is bolted up as it should be. Everything's tight, sprocket on, little lock grub screw in, oil seals are on, spacers are in. Okay. Oh, come on, where's the holes gone? There they are. There we go. Right, now then, excuse me stretching across in front of you. Gonna put a little star type lock washer on these because they don't stick out much, so hey, this is all starting to look something like, isn't it? Oh, by the way, I had some more. I've been getting regular little flurries every day. I'm getting a few new subscribers, and oh, sorry, I forgot your name again. I've had a couple of emails from a chap who's building an Enfield up as well. We've been slightly backwards and forwards, and he mentioned that I have had a mention on a couple of the Royal Enfield sort of websites, and so I think that's bringing people to me. All right. There we go. Actually, I think we could put an ordinary washer under there as well. Let's do that. I didn't think there was going to be that much sticking out. Alright, let me do that. So now that's on nicely. So that can go on. Next thing to put on is the clutch and the primary chain. Now I've got a smaller sprocket here, same as we do with the BSAs, which nicely reduces all the gearing. This is a 17, I think, down from a 20, something like that. And Hitchcock's actually mentioned on the site, which is very nice, very helpful, that if you put one of these on, you're going to need a short chain. Because, you know, some places they just let you buy this and then you try to put the chain on and you have to shorten it or something. So I got the shorter primary duplex chain as well. So let me get the clutch parts and we'll put that together. Now I don't know how well you'll see this, but the new rubbers came, so they're now the right length, look. And you'll see that, well, I don't know if you can see, they're sort of a loose fit because this part is going to move. So what you've got to do is you've got to, where there's little gaps, you're going to squeeze it so we can get the smaller ones in. I always like to put the big ones in first. I've oiled them, I've got them standing here oiled. So what you need is something like a big screwdriver that you can turn. That one's just too small, see? So I'm going to put this in. Then this is the fixed portion, this is the vein that moves. And then I'm going to try and just squash one up against the other. Can you see that? You just turn it to squash it up. Right, and then, oh, I've got my fingers stuck there. Then, once you've got them squeezed up, as I say, I've oiled these a little bit. See, they just won't go in until you put a little bit on there. Two people is good for this, one to hold it, because you can't really get a grip of it in the vise. Bet you've got a better way of doing this, haven't you, Charlie? Oh, come on. This is another one of these where I've shown you what sport. It's like a workshop manual, isn't it? You just do this. Well, that's what you're just supposed to do. Let me struggle with it and then we'll bring you back. Well, got the rubbers into there. Actually, I was able to grip this. There was just enough to get hold of it in the vise, and that made it so easy. Actually, you just put the thing in, twisted it, and I was able to push them in. But you didn't see that. So the other thing is, as you will see, there's a big circlip in here. And when I was laying the stuff out, suddenly struck me I didn't have the circlip, so I had to look around, and when I found it, there was the nut to go on the end of the shaft. So we're all right for the clutch. Okay, so what happens? Right, there's our clutch center. Here's our clutch cage, basket, whatever you want to call it. You remember BSA and Triumph, they have rollers in, loose rollers. Well, these have a set of balls in there, and it's riveted in, so you get the whole thing complete. Now, what I want to make sure with this is when it's on there, you don't have any play, which this doesn't, so they're fine. So I'm just going to put a bit of oil on them. When it finally comes, it makes its way out. There we go. Alright, so that goes on there. Oh, also I should mention that, see, there's friction material there and there, so actually the friction material goes on there, so it's almost like an extra clutch plate. Well, in fact it is an extra clutch plate. Then the centre is held in here by a big circlip. Snap ring, I think they call them here. Memory serves me right. So let's in there. Now come on, I can threaten it with the big pliers. There it goes. All the way down to there. Then that's held there, okay? Then obviously all the plates go in. Then that goes on. And this final thing, there are 6 springs, so there's sort of 3 on there and there's 3 on there, and they go like that. That screws onto there after that's gone on. So that goes on there, that's the sort of final plate. Then that goes on there like that, with little spacing pieces on the springs to get us all to the right length. So let's go and put this on the bike. Alright, it's 2 steps backwards time. In fact, it's one giant running jump backwards. I went to put the clutch on, and before I tried with the chain and started filming, I put the clutch wheel and the engine sprocket on, and they were about 1/4 of an inch out of line. So I was this, that, the other, going at it. Couldn't find anything wrong at all. The one thing I did find out is you can take this apart relatively easily. So I'll film putting it back together again for those of you who are working on Enfields, because I did make a right pig's ear of it. Alright, so what did I find? Well, you remember I have another gearbox. So the problem was that the main shaft here was sticking out too far that way, so that when I put the clutch on and it came up against the stops, it was sticking right out. So I thought to myself, this has got to move in, but I couldn't find anything wrong. I mean, things like this are pressed on. So I went and took the other gearbox together apart, sort of checking everything that came out, and everything seemed to be right. But then when I put the 2 shafts together, look, it's 3/8 of an inch shorter. So I don't know what that is about. It's something for you to... Actually, what I would say is take this as a lesson when you buy a basket case, or in this case, a couple of engines stripped. You don't always find that everything is the same in 2 engines. So now we'll use this shorter shaft. Let me put some oil on it and I'll put it back in, and then I'll try and show you how this goes together relatively easily. Now, as I said, I've oiled that shaft, put it in. I'm going to try and do this without blocking you from seeing stuff. What I've also done, just to be on the safe side before everything got bolted up, is I've just tried the clutch on, and now the chain lines up. So we've got that main shaft in. Now then, what we do, look, is we put these 2 together. Actually, oh no, you put that in after, and I've got the clutch hanging on the end. See, I only took this apart about an hour ago and I've forgotten already. Alright, so that comes out. So here we have these two shafts. And with that up in the air, I'm going to try and, it's like the Triumph diagram. You can lift that up, get this in low enough, because it's fiddly. You've got to get that top shaft on, then you can drop this down a little bit. There's just enough space to get it in. It goes in, and then, come on now, don't get stuck. We've actually got the pins on. I can't really show you inside, but you remember all that trouble getting the pins into the little forks at the end of here? They're actually in there. So that goes in. So the next thing, will you look at that? Now you can put this one on. And there it is. You wouldn't credit it, would you? So alright, let me button this up and then we'll go around and look at the clutch. So here we are, back to where we were about an hour and a half, cup of tea and 6 or 7 ginger biscuits ago. So we now have this just poking out enough to go on the splines for here. So we'll put the primary chain on, which is an endless chain. So you've got to put it on like so. You've got splines to line up there and splines to line up there. And little rubber hammer, excuse me. There we go. So we can put our nut in there because we have the nut for it. I also have lock washer. Well, I was even wrong about these. They're not 5/8, they're 9/16. 9/16. I've got a little box here that says 5/8 lock washers. Hang on, 9/16 lock washers. So we'll get one of them out. Pop that in there. Oh, by the way, did I tell you that, you know the place I mentioned I get my British fasteners from? Although they listed these nuts, they were out of stock. But the only nut that's out of stock is the one I want. So, I'll put this on, and I have I turned record on? Yes, I have, because I did some in the other day, bit of this that you've already watched, where I did the whole thing and then I found out I hadn't pressed the record button. So I took it apart and did it again. Now I will find if there's a torque setting for this, because I've done it again. I ordered a brand new clutch push rod, but there's a second piece that goes here with a little mushroom end and I forgot to enter that. So we can't finish off building the clutch. What we can put on is our chain tensioner. Probably have to just screw it all the way in. That goes, it screws on there. There's a one of them that screws on there. I think I might put a rubber foot on this because it's battered into that, or maybe make a little piece that goes on there. Steam Shop Dave suggested I machine a little piece with lips, you know, like to slide onto there out of Delran or something of that sort. But anyway, you get the idea there, like that. We'll screw that out and adjust that, or I'll make a piece for there. The next thing that's going to go on is this ring. You'll remember this ring from the what's its face? The Indian. Because you may remember I started to make things to mount the different size of the more modern alternator, and then discovered that you can actually buy the ring. Okie dokie dokie. Wrong one. They don't match, but I've got what I need. And a screw-in driver. So I only had 2 of the proper ones, but as it's inside the engine, and I did have some Allen ones from when I did the Indian. Because I got those from British Tools and Fasteners. So that goes on there, and our electronic ignition is going to go on there. God, that annoyed me when that wouldn't go on. This was really sticking out, and I just couldn't work out why. My first thought was that, you know, you can get 2 different lengths of crankshaft on this side. There's a slimmer one from when they used to have the Mag Dyno, so it didn't have an alternator on. When they need to put an alternator on, they made this side of the crankshaft a bit longer. And I thought, you know, what if I've got one of them? As it happened, it was a shaft in the gearbox. Anyway, that is going to have to do for today and for this week. But there is a little bit more video coming up because, hang on. Well, before I tell you about this extra little bit of video, whoever it was, whose name I can't remember, you were right about the mudguard. Every time I walked past it, it really annoyed me. Partly because it didn't look right, but more because I'd sort of moved it without noticing before I marked it. So anyway, I took it off, welded up the holes, polished them out and everything, and moved it round. I also cut a little bit off the bottom, I think you can see this, because I didn't want it to stick down too much for when you're going over logs and things. Alright, this last bit of video is from a friend of mine's. He has quite a collection of OSAs, or to be bilingual, OSA as they say here. And each year he has an open day. So I tripped along there and took some video. Now, I couldn't do a commentary and stuff because there was people coming and going and all this sort of thing. But I managed to, I think, film all the bikes. He's actually bought a couple in Europe because they were models that you didn't get in the States, and he wanted to have like a full list of things. So enjoy these few minutes of seeing lots of OSAs, and I will see you next week. And until then, enjoy yourselves.
How you been? Doing good.
Tommy, yes.
What brings you up? Just had a chance to.
Yeah, Carol.
Good.
No, I remember a few years ago at the Greenwich and Concourse, somebody had an accident by SDT.
Yeah.
Me and Matt happened to get off. I usually work there, we better. Still had all day. Yeah. Yeah. No. Staying focused. Yeah, 12. Good, how are you? Oh, hi, Paul. Good, good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. Now we come in the back way to Mid-Ohio. I think it's still got a 10th Street out. You see the skin blade camping here hanging off. Everybody, oh, he's done good.
You still got a pretty good section yourself.
Yeah, we got, I finally finished the GP3. I finally everything I wanted to do. When I first moved to the dumpster.
Oh, mine, you're
That's what I did. But I don't, I'm trying to finish my stuff. Sold it, big junk, up there. And years, I think it ended up over in Massachusetts somewhere. And then, years. That is the color one. You never get done with it. Yeah.
And this guy wants something, he says, I built that bike. I said, let me give Mr. Howard what we were talking about. So, his name's Pete, and I mentioned I got to be good friends with Pete, but his daughter lives right here in Bath. She lives like 100 yards away.
That was all. This year. And you also have that poster there? Yeah. Those came on a big pad of paper. And there's steel off it. I said, how I the deal. And they had a sticker. I used a bunch of those for Christmas wrapping paper one year. Oh, yeah. Sure, go ahead and get that one. Nobody wants it. Yeah. That was the one in Ohio. That's the first one. I'm retired out of the military. Yeah, I'm retired with the Jews. I was hoping to with that. Thank God. This is Paul. This is Scott. Hi, Paul. I got there late Saturday. First time here. So far, somewhat healthy. I got the shot. You clean house and then you go to the I'm a lot better shape than a lot of my counterparts. Just, I remember him. How's the wife? All right? Good. Yeah.